If I have to cut out all of your slips, I'm gonna die. I just get the giggles.
My eye itches.
I remember it being awkward. I never actually paid you.
You're probably not,
Anyways, after throwing me under the bus for a second.
That's the beauty of marriage. And that's the beauty of being together and being able to be in a healthy enough spot to where you can do that.
What is going on,
What's
friends? Welcome to episode 4, part 2 of our finances discussion.
Well, it's episode 4, but episode 3, part 2, but it's episode 4. Not episode 4, part 2.
Anyways, welcome back to our podcast. Let's go with that. And today we're going to be talking about finances again, but what it looks like in those early years of marriage.
Ooh, the spicy early years of marriage.
Yeah, we're about to celebrate our 3rd wedding anniversary on
Next
November
month.
30th.
Yeah.
Super excited. And so in those early first 3 years, we've talked about a lot when it comes to money, and especially the first year, because you're just changing so much in your life. So we just thought we'd kind of ask each other a few questions about how we thought the process went in the past couple years and what other people might need to do for their situation, and just kind of throw our opinion out there and just roll with it.
Yeah, and especially because we had so many changes. We weren't set in our jobs. I think within the first year, you had 3 different jobs, because you had the one with your dad, the one at the hospital, and then the one with your uncle.
Yeah, because I guess I started at the hospital like the week after our honeymoon or something.
And then I had 2.
I wouldn't count my dad's because I literally was done.
Yeah, but it was like, it's not really like you had like a stable job and you carried it through marriage.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so I think there was like, no, I mean, well, maybe a little.
I'm trying to figure out my life.
But exactly, when you're first married, like you're trying to figure out your life, you're trying to figure out your life together and stuff like that. So, yeah. Anyways,
after throwing me under the bus for a second, let's just hop right on into it. And I feel like this is going to be helpful I know we had the dating one last time, but this is going to be helpful for anyone that's not even married yet, because this is something that you should be preparing for. And if you've been married for longer than us, you might still learn something from this just by the way we do things. So you never know. So give it a shot, listen in. But first question is our money combined or separate? Like, what do you think? I'm not talking bank accounts or anything. I'm just talking when you think of your money, is it just yours or is it mine as well, and vice versa?
I actually want to hear your response first.
But
we haven't actually talked about any of this.
Oh yeah,
we literally haven't.
We just throw stuff out there.
I want to hear I want to hear your opinion first.
I feel like it was a little awkward, like when we were engaged, because when we were planning the wedding and stuff, it'd be like, oh, like who's gonna buy this? Who's gonna buy that? And then when
that was family stuff too, though.
Well, no, like I'm talking about when you and I would pay for random little things. And then I specifically remember when we got the apartment.
I remember this.
And so
like, this is our money.
Yeah, because we didn't live together before marriage, so we got the apartment 2 months before our wedding?
Yeah.
Something like that, so that Christopher could
like
just have a place to
2
stay.
months. 2 months.
Yeah, so Christopher was paying the full apartment bill, and he would randomly be like, oh, like maybe you could give me some money, and I'd be like, oh yeah, maybe I should do that. And it was just kind of awkward. I remember it being awkward. I never actually paid you.
You're probably not. No, probably not.
So I think in the beginning it was a little awkward, but once we were married, I think that we kind of just agreed, like, it's our money together. It's not your money and my money separate. Like, oh, well, I made this much, so I can spend this much on clothes this month, sort of thing. It's like everything in marriage is a combined team effort. So why would our money be any different?
Yeah, I think that, it really starts, I think, when it comes to thinking in that way, like, is our money, well, even our money, see, I'm like already saying our money, like, is the money that we make separately ours, or do we own it separately?
Yeah.
I think if you go into marriage, or even like engagement, so an engagement you're already anticipating marriage. So you've already made the decision to be married. There's just a waiting period for logistical reasons for planning, and unless you just like elope or go to a courthouse, logistical reasons for family to be able to make plans, for you to make plans. But essentially you've already made that decision, like we are going to be married. And if you go into the relationship with the intent to withhold good things from each other, I think that already kind of says a lot about your plan, as like a married couple. Mm-hmm. And I know it can be a little bit difficult to be able to share things that you've worked for, but essentially like that's the goal. Like you and I feel like we're in it for the long haul, obviously. So anything that I do to you, I would automatically eventually turn it around and do to myself. So anything that I do to you, I do to myself. And I think that withholding certain things from each other just isn't beneficial in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, to me, it just doesn't scream teamwork. Like, it screams, I'm doing this for myself.
Well, yeah, and like if we use that same analogy with money, and literally like any other aspect of marriage, you can see how the argument even like breaks down. Like it doesn't hold any weight whatsoever. So like in your case, you work from home, so you're spending a lot more time with Halston. So I'm investing myself in my job. So right now, it didn't always used to be this way, but right now I make more than you. And I went to school and I invested, and you invested too, but I invested in the education, I invest at work, I invest more, I get paid more hourly. So some would think I get to spend more than you. But if I said, hey, like I did more work in school, I did more work at work today, so I'm going to take more from what I've made and withhold some of it from you because I think it's my money. And if that was any other way in the relationship, like, hey, I invested more time with Halston, so like I'm going to withhold time with Halston from you because I worked harder with her. Mm-hmm. Or you don't get to enjoy the house because I was home today and I cleaned it. So you don't get to enjoy it like I enjoy it.
Yeah.
If you use that analogy with any other part of marriage or life, it's just like, it doesn't work
100%.
whatsoever.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, like right before you said it. If you are keeping a tally of everything you've done, whether it be your job or something at home, like your marriage is going to be difficult. Like we've gone through seasons of that. I know I personally have like keeping tally of everything I've done, and then you come home and I'm like, well, I've done these things and you've done these things. Like, so I think that I've done more today, so therefore I should have a reward. And it's just ridiculous. It's just, I remember we were at small group the other week and we go to a marriage small group right now, and I remember them saying it is just plain like immaturity those first few years of like the arguments you have are just because you aren't mature in your marriage yet.
Yeah.
And it's just so silly.
Or just not even mature in marriage. Like I feel like two really mature people can come together and they are already making things work better than two people who are separately immature.
Yeah,
like I know there's some,
young.
There's a lot of work that needs to be done together, but I think also individual maturity and like just internal security says a lot, I think, about a person too.
You just rhymed. Maturity and security.
Yeah, I'm a poet and a rapper. You don't want to see me rap.
Rapper.
Stop.
That's like that YouTube video. But I'm not a rapper.
I should be though. But I think that people miss the point. Like the point of trying to keep things from yourself or for yourself is the idea of I still want to be an independent person.
Yeah. Which
is understandable, not obtainable, and I think the way that God's view for marriage is. Mm-hmm. Like if God were to, or Jesus or God or anyone were to come to me and say, hey, what do you think like marriage should be? And I was like, well, I think I just want to be independent. Like nowhere, like nobody ever said that, and it like I feel like worked well.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's a bad thing. Like I do all that to say, I think it's our money. All that to say, I do have things that I consider mine. And I think that you have things that you consider maybe not as much.
Oh, guys.
Wait.
Buddy trail.
No. I think this is really important to make the distinction that I do have things like if you want to be considered like an individual, because I think that's important. Like you need to have time alone. Like not absolutely everything is like shared.
Yeah, it's not like independence is thrown out the window when you get married. There's a healthy side of independence, but there's also healthy unity, and you have to figure out what goes in what bucket.
Yeah.
And finances goes into the unity bucket.
Yeah, and I think that it's important to note that even the stuff that I do consider mine, and that let's say like I'm the only one that uses it, let's say, or I have like a certain amount of money a month that's devoted to my use that you don't have say over necessarily. But we decided on that together. Except for the computer.
That's all I'm thinking about.
Yeah, no.
No, like when Christopher has a side hustle going for something, like he recently had one, like we agreed, like he wanted to do a certain thing with that money, and I was totally down for it because he was working extra hard on the side. He came to me, we had the discussion. It's not like he was just like, by the way, I'm doing this, and it's how it's going to be because I'm the one working for it. Like, there's always a discussion.
I was still like taking money as an individual, but the only reason that I did that is because she respected the time that I was putting into it.
Yeah.
To be able to use it for something that I wanted to use it for. And if I wanted to buy something that maybe she was like, I don't think that's like a smart purchase, then she would respect me enough to know that, this is what we agreed on. This is what I want to use the money for. But when it comes to, since we're comparing it like financially in different, maybe even home roles, like taking care of Halston, taking care of the house, me putting time into that side hustle made you do more work for Halston.
Yeah.
So that's why I only probably took a fourth of the money.
Oh yeah.
And put it into something that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And contributed 3/4 of that side hustle back into our bank account and save for a house or save for diapers, or save for literally anything else that we would spend together.
Yeah.
Because you have to realize, anything that makes me money, I probably have to spend time doing. And me spending time doing that takes time away from me taking care of Halston or me doing something with the house so that you can work. Yeah. So I think there is that like give and take. Ultimately, I think that the money is ours and it's both of ours. And I think that everything should be viewed as a group decision.
Yeah,
so,
I agree.
Yeah, that's what I think about that. That's a long rant.
All right. Yeah. Well, the next thing is, do we share a bank account and why? Yeah. But I feel like we have basically answered that. Like people can just assume, but do you want to just kind of lay it out there quickly?
Yes. I think that sharing money and sharing bank accounts are kind of linked, but I think that there are, without covering what we just covered, I think that there are really practical reasons to share a bank account. Aside from what we just talked about, I know some people don't share bank accounts because one of them doesn't like that the other one makes less, and maybe they're a little bit older and have been set in their career and they don't want to share. That seems a little bit immature, but I think there are really practical reasons too. One, we both know what's going on at all times.
Yeah.
There's nothing that which could scare some people. Like, like maybe you don't want somebody else to know like what you're buying at literally like all times. Like if she buys something on Amazon, I get a notification and vice versa. Or if I buy something on the bank account, we don't get notified of like just every single purchase ever, but we can just go on the app and see everything that everyone's buying. But I think that's really beneficial because we can see a breakdown of cash flow, income, spending, what we're spending on, like where we need to do better. So I think like there are a lot of arguments that can be made for why you should share a bank account in multiple different aspects. But I think just logically and logistically, I think it makes sense. I think the statistic is like only 43% of couples actually share one bank account. And I think that gets lower with age, like the younger the generation gets, I think the less likely they are to share bank accounts. And I think 75% of couples share at least one. So the difference is 43% have only one bank account, and 75% have separate bank accounts, but they share at least one. So it's pretty common for people to not actually share.
Yeah, and I hear like, this one frustrates me when like people don't change their last name, or people don't combine bank accounts because, oh, it's just a lot of work. You know, like right now,
so much work.
Like I have my credit card set up to prepay these bills, and you know, if we combine accounts, that would just be a lot of work. Like, no, I'm gonna be honest, it takes half a day maybe out of years and years and years of marriage.
You did it pretty quick.
Like I changed my last name in I can't even tell you, it was so quick. And people come up to me now and they're like, oh, like after they get married, you know, it's gonna take me so much to change my name. And I just tell them, no, it isn't. Like, you just hear that around town and you believe it, but changing your last name is important and you should just go and do it. And I feel the same way with bank accounts. Like if it's the only reason that it's holding you back is because it's a lot of work to change it over, that's not a good reason.
Like planning the wedding wasn't a lot of work.
Yeah, like planning the wedding wasn't a lot of work. Like moving wasn't a lot of work. Like dating the person, getting engaged, like it's just a bad excuse.
It's like, yeah, I don't want to put any more, we're married, I don't want to put any more effort in.
I don't want to put like a couple hours of effort into this. But you touched on something which kind of brings me to the next question, and it's about financial comparison and the whole situation of if someone makes more money than the other person, should the person that makes less feel insecure or awkward about it? Like, do they have a reason to not want to combine bank accounts? Do you kind of want to talk about our situation and like my money versus yours, and when we combined, what that looked like?
Like as far as when we combined it in the beginning? Like
yeah, because you had a decent amount more money than me. A lot.
I think with our relationship, I don't even know if there's anything to comment on. We just joined it and I didn't have a problem with it.
Yeah, and I mean, we were pretty open.
I take that back.
I mean, you wish I had more money.
I think that this is kind of what we talked about last episode, last week. I did feel, I don't know if we've ever talked about it.
I kind of assumed you felt this way. I think I know what you're going to say, so go ahead.
I felt, because there were certain things that I think I wanted. Like I had thought about, I don't know if like a lot of guys think about rings, but I thought like there were a lot of cool rings out there that maybe were more expensive than the one that I had gotten. Don't get me wrong. I picked the one that I got. Like, cause you eventually said, hey, if you want something else, you can have something else. But I ended up really, really, really liking the one that I got. And that's the one I picked over all the other ones. But I think there were some scenarios where I was like, man, like, because you made a lot more than me.
No, I didn't.
I think you did, right?
No.
I was making like 13 an hour.
I was making like
before.
15.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. So I think that there were some moments where I was like, man, I feel like she's not bringing anything to the table financially. Like it was like we got together and then I spent like everything, which I ultimately think like that's what I want to be capable of. And it wasn't an issue to the point where I even ever brought it up, I don't think. But I think it was like just in the back of my mind, kind of, that I was a little bit, it wasn't like frustrated. It was just like a little bit bummed, like, I wish he had saved more so that maybe I could have something that I had actually been looking at for like the last couple of years. But it kind of goes back to what we were saying last episode about what do you want to bring to the relationship. So, but I think that we joined pretty seamlessly and flawlessly. And I don't, especially once you're married and everything like that, you just want to, ultimately you just want to pull your own weight. Like if you're working hard and the other person's working hard, it doesn't bother me if I'm making more, and it doesn't bother me if you're making more. And I don't think it should really bother anyone. There's always those situations though, like if you were like, hey, I don't want to work, so I'm not going to work anymore. And I'm like, we literally can't live unless you work at least part-time. And you're like, well, I'm not going to work. You should be the one working. That's obviously like a little bit of an issue. I'm not talking about like that sort of thing where the other person literally just isn't helping.
Said pull your weight. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not like a slave driver with a pull your weight.
Once again, you are a combined team. So each person has to pull their own weight to make it successful. So whether the weight looks like money or being a mom, like cleaning the house, taking care of the baby, whatever it looks like, we figure that out together. What does weight look like for the other? And we pull it together. So I know what you mean though.
And combined, we each individually weigh something.
Yeah.
So, like just metaphorically, if you aren't carrying your weight, I'm carrying my weight, which sometimes is hard enough, and I'm carrying your weight, which is fine for a time.
Yeah.
There's
season has someone else carrying more weight.
I might be going through a significantly harder time than you. And, for a couple months or for a couple weeks or for a couple days, depending on what it is, you might be carrying your weight and a little bit of my weight. And then it flip-flops, like that's the beauty of marriage. And that's the beauty of being together and being able to be in a healthy enough spot to where you can do that.
Yeah, so basically the answer to that question is it's not about comparison. It's about working together as a team. And if someone has an issue with someone else's finances that are being brought to the table, I think it's an issue of pride. And it's something that needs to be dealt with because there is no reason to look down upon yourself or your significant other and what their finances are bringing in. It's just we're here as a team, and I love you, so we're gonna make it work. And you know what? Also, it's just the beginning of your marriage. There's so many years in a marriage, so there could be seasons where all of a sudden, I go to school and I make more than you for some reason, and then you make more than me, and then there's a season where you're not having a job or I'm not. There's so many seasons in life. So it's just making sure that you're starting the first season in the smoothest transition that you can, right?
Yeah, and if you look down upon your spouse or if you constantly compete with your spouse, let me know how that goes for you. Get back to me in a year and tell me how your relationship is going. So
yeah, because I don't think it would have gone well if you had come to me and been like, we need to sit down. You're not bringing enough to the table financially. I don't mean currently. I mean in your savings from before you met me. You'd be all it would do is it would have made me feel bad and it would have caused a fight, and it just would not have been a useful conversation. So the way you just kind of held it in and processed it, now you can throw it at me. I mean, it's 3 years after, but
yeah, it's not that much. It's not that. It's not grand scheme of things. It's not that much money,
Yeah. So and that's another aspect. It's just money. And you shouldn't let money affect your relationship in a large way. You have the decision to allow it to have a big hold or a little hold on your relationship, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then the last thing I had was just, what about different spending habits? What do you do if you have a spender and a saver? How have we made it work together? How have we kind of balanced each other out? I know we kind of touched on this already in the last episode. And I had said that you were pretty gentle with me in our engagement period. But I did mention, once we were married, it was okay, this is how it's going to be. So do you kind of want to lay that part out of what it looked like?
I'm scared to do that.
Why?
No, I'm just kidding. You were a little bit of a spender.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit.
And you were a nasty saver.
No, not nasty. I wasn't nasty. I was just a big saver.
I know.
I was just a big saver. Yeah. I took a little bit of work, though. If you really think about it, I think it took quite a bit of work.
What do you mean?
It wasn't just one conversation. But I also don't want it to feel like I manipulated you into becoming a saver.
Well, no, like, I think that the better side of the spectrum to be on is saving. So
Yeah.
no one was manipulating anyone. You were just kind of, what's the word you want to use? Drawing me
Directing.
to the light.
Direct to the light. Yeah.
But like I said, I felt like we kind of met on your side in the beginning. Like you kind of pulled me over, and then I kind of pulled us both over to the spending side a little bit. Mm-hmm. Right? I
Yeah.
feel like that's kind of how it went. You pulled me, and then I pulled you.
Well, and I never had a plan. Like when I was single, there was no plan. It was just like, don't spend money. Like that was the plan. People were always like, how do you save money? I'm like, I don't think, like, what was your budget? I'm like, I didn't really have one. And I think like that was a problem too. Like I think it's sometimes like I made a budget, and I think that making a budget, actually we should have talked about that earlier, is making a budget. I think that's really important.
Yeah, we did make a budget in the beginning of our marriage.
Yeah, making a budget and actually like agreeing on something to where you don't like just having a plan basically. But
We'll kind of touch on that in the next episode too, I feel like.
yeah,
But
so yeah, because I feel like the Bible does talk about that quite a bit, doesn't it?
yeah.
But I think throughout many conversations that we had, I think we just started to work together. You just got to work at it, especially in the beginning. So
Yeah, I think that's all we had. So
Yeah.
just encourage you guys, like, it's not a competition. It's not who makes more than the other. It's just about being gentle with each other, kind, unified, like reminding
Yeah.
yourselves like what marriage is supposed to look like, and that it's teamwork. It's not like individuals battling each other for the rest of your lives, So
Yeah.
you can make it work. It doesn't have to be a touchy subject. Like it's not a touchy subject for us anymore. And we just are learning every day different ways to save, different ways to grow, and it grows our marriage too. So hope this encouraged you guys.
Yeah.
And next episode, we will talk about what the Bible says about finances, which I am so excited for. I
Part
think
3.
it's just kind of gonna round everything out.
Yeah.
Make it all make sense. So love you guys. Hope you enjoyed the episode. We'll see you next week.
Sweet.